All right, welcome to this explainer. You know, we interact with communication networks literally every single day, and honestly, we usually take them totally for granted. Whether you're shooting a quick text to a friend or executing some complex global financial transaction, the systems making those connections happen have a really fascinating history. So today, we are zeroing in on the ultimate focus of our modern world, communication. We're going to look at how we evolved from literal runners carrying physical messages all the way to a sprawling digital cyberspace that connects billions of us instantly. To get there, we'll quickly map out the evolution of connection, contrast personal versus mass communication, check out the sheer scale of India's vast communication networks, dive into the satellite revolution, and finally, explore cyberspace and the concept of the global village.
So let's jump right into part one, the evolution of connection. Now, historically, communication and transportation were exactly the same thing. I mean, really think about that for a second. If you wanted to get a message to the next town over, it required physical movement. You had to beat a drum, send up smoke signals, or rely on fast runners, horses, camels, even birds, just to physically deliver that information. Fast forward to today, and we're relying on satellites, the internet, and instant messaging. The evolution here isn't just about things getting faster, it's a total fundamental shift in how information actually travels across the globe. The real game changer, the great divide, if you will, was when science and tech finally allowed communication to separate from physical transportation. Once we saw the invention of the post office, the telegraph, the printing press, and later the telephone, everything changed. Suddenly, long-distance communication was incredibly easy, and nobody had to actually go anywhere to send or receive a message. This separation is what literally laid the groundwork for our modern global economy. All right, moving on to section 2, let's look at personal versus mass communication. When we map out modern communication, it splits really cleanly into two main branches. On one side, you've got personal communication. This is your direct one-to-one contact. Think letters, emails, and phone calls. And then on the flip side, we have mass communication, which is one-to-many. This includes radio, television, cinema, satellite broadcasts, newspapers, and even public meetings. Mass communication is absolutely vital. Not only does it provide entertainment, but it creates widespread awareness about national programs and policies. Both of these branches, personal and mass, act as critical arteries keeping society pumping. Now, for Section 3, let's ground this by looking at India's vast communication networks. To really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of these lifelines, India is the perfect example, because it actually boasts the largest postal network in the entire world. We're talking about a system that handles everything from massive parcels to personal written notes. They airlift first-class mail, like cards and envelopes, and they move second-class mail, like book packets and periodicals, across both land and water. But as you can imagine, managing all of that across such a massive, diverse geography is a total logistical nightmare. To fix that, they introduced 6 specialized mail channels in large towns and cities, things like the Rajdhani Channel, Metro Channel, Green Channel, and so on. By categorizing mail this way, they can ensure rapid, organized delivery, which just goes to show that even traditional physical communication needs constant innovation to keep up with modern demands. But it's definitely not just about physical mail anymore. India has one of the largest telecom networks in Asia. If you exclude the urban centers, more than two-thirds of India's rural villages are already covered with subscriber trunk dialing or STD telephone facilities. That is a massive push to connect the grassroots level directly to the rest of the nation. The government even made special provisions to extend 24-hour STD facilities to every single village while keeping a uniform rate across the whole country. And, to pull off that kind of widespread grassroots connectivity, you really have to look up, straight into space. Which brings us to our 4th section, this satellite revolution. When we think about satellites, we usually just picture making a cell phone call or watching cable TV. But there's so much more than just communication relays. Satellites actually act as the overarching regulators for all our other networks. By giving us a continuous synoptic view of huge chunks of the Earth, they're absolutely crucial for a nation's economic and strategic security. I'm talking weather forecasting, disaster monitoring, border surveillance. They're essentially these silent guardians orbiting above us, making sure our ground-level networks keep functioning smoothly. And here's the really wild financial reality about this tech. Once artificial satellites are successfully deployed in orbit, they make the unit cost and the time of communication completely invariant to distance. That is a massive game changer. It literally means it costs the exact same amount of money and takes the exact same amount of time to send a message 500 kilometers as it does 5,000 kilometers via satellite. Distance has, for all intents and purposes, been erased from the cost equation. Of course, this leap didn't just happen overnight, but once it started, India moved incredibly fast. Following the pioneering space research of the US and the former USSR in the 1970s, India made its own massive strides. They started with Aryabhat in April 1975, then Bhaskar I in 79, Rohini in 80, and the Apple rocket launch in 81. It was a rapid, pioneering deployment into space. Plus, systems like INSAT established this amazing multi-purpose network for telecommunication and meteorological observation, fundamentally upgrading how the whole nation communicates over long distances. Finally, let's bring it all together in Section 5, Cyberspace in the Global Village. Cyberspace is, well, everywhere. It's this electronic digital world encompassed by computer networks that lets us communicate and access info without anyone taking a single physical step. You could be sitting in a high-rise office, on a sailboat, or on a cross-country flight, and you are still deeply plugged in. Cyberspace expands our economic and social reality through email, e-commerce, e-learning, and e-governance, totally cutting across the traditional boundaries of place and time. And the scale of this? It's staggering. The internet is the largest electronic network on the planet right now, connecting roughly 1,000 million people, 1 billion users, across more than 100 countries. It acts as our central warehouse of human knowledge, giving us super efficient access to data at a comparatively low cost. From a bustling urban cybercafe to a smartphone in a remote rural village, this web of connectivity just keeps growing every single day. When you step back and look at land, air, and space all working in tandem, it makes total sense why we call these networks our economic lifelines. Without these varied modes of transport and communication working together, goods, services, and ideas simply cannot move from where they're made to where they're needed. They are the literal nervous system driving trade, commerce, and human progress. The entire pace of a country's development depends heavily on how efficient these networks are. Modern communication systems, way more than physical transportation ever could, have turned the concept of the global village into a very real, tangible thing. We've evolved from relying on animals and fast runners to instantly sharing data across the globe via orbiting satellites and fiber optic cyberspace. So as these networks continuously expand and bring billions more online, it leaves us with one fascinating question to ponder. How will these invisible lifelines transform our world next? Thanks for exploring the evolution of communication with me today. Keep questioning and stay curious.
Thanks for watching. For daily APPSC Group-2 study material and updates, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon.